Hey everyone, I'm Tori Johnson. Before you ever walk in a company's front door, your resume has paved the way. It's your primary tool to sell your ability to tell an employer why you're the best they can possibly hire. But resumes are not just pieces of paper anymore. The internet is partly responsible, but the job market has also changed. Competition is brutal. Job coach Donna Swayden is here to help reconstruct your resume, along with New York career counselor Judith Gerberg. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judith, let me start with you. What is the first thing that I need to think about if I'm trying to figure out whether or not my resume is even any good?
Right. So the first thing is, are you getting results? And the second thing is, who can you have read it to give you some feedback? And that might be a friend who's in the field that you're looking at, or it might be somebody who is a relative of yours, just to get some feedback into how it looks to someone who already knows you and will give you some feedback. It's also a way of getting somebody to really read your resume and pay attention.
Sure.
So that they may have some good ideas. They may also have some good ideas of where to send it.
Oh, absolutely. So, for example, I would not have at the very top an objective that says, I want a position in customer service. I want to do this.
Right.
Instead, is it a professional summary that should be at the top? What's the way to convey to somebody who I am, what I have to offer to you?
Right. Well, it really depends on the field and whether it's your certificates or your education, in which case you would want to open with that. If you're at a different point in your career where that's not what you're trying to sell, then you would go into a qualification summary or a professional profile, any of those kinds of words. Wouldn't you agree? That's a very good way to open, because you want to get somebody's eye. And there are the language within the ad that you might be responding to, the posting, will also give you some hints as to what summary.
I also think as I look at resumes, oftentimes I see every bullet on that resume starting responsible for, and it almost reads more like a job description than what I call a celebration of somebody's successes and accomplishments.
Oh, that's a great word. Celebration is really what you want to convey with your resume. You really want it to have that kind of energy of excitement and enthusiasm. And I'm constantly, along with responsible for, crossing out worked on, or words that duties included, all of those things. You want to get right to your action verbs.
Sure.
And those are the important things.
It's not just what you did, but also how well you did it. How important is it to include the specific accomplishments to be able to qualify and quantify on your resume?
Right.
And I have an example of that. Instead of saying responsible for planning or managing a new project, saying spearheaded the introduction of.
Much more powerful. Much more powerful. Judith, tell me this. What do you think about the difference between using a chronological resume that's heavily focused on the dates of employment versus a functional resume that focuses more on our specific skill sets and maybe doesn't reflect the order in which we've held specific positions?
It depends on two things. I'd hate to keep saying it depends, but it really is a fluid document. So what it depends on is, what is the field. If you're looking in a conservative banking investment field, you want to have a resume that is very plain vanilla. So you want to have a chronological resume. That's what they're looking for. If you're looking in a creative field, you can have much more play with it. Or if your experience was your career before this that you want to feature, you can have experience on the top, and then, or relevant experience, and then other experience, so that you have a lot of options. It's not just either or, but it's combinations, and what is it that you want to feature. Very much depends on
how you're trying to take that experience and leverage it into something else.
Well, if you have something to say, I mean, I recently, somebody sent me this award-winning resume, and I looked at it, and it was like they were trying to stuff everything on the one page so that it was impossible to read anything. It was so gibbly and so jumbly. What I suggest people do is sit down and write what your experience is. Come from what the content is, rather than a form. So that if you have 2 pages worth of really good things to tell somebody,
you could justify it.
Right, it'll be a page turner.
Sure. and recruiters will want to read more.
Sure.
You know, so it really just depends on how appealing all that their knowledge and background is to somebody.
Right, and don't you find also that sometimes recruiters will have their own special form, and then someone will come in with the recruiter's special form, and you'll look at it and you'll say, well, why did you do it this way? And they said, oh, a recruiter said I should do it that way. Well, that's what the recruiter needed, but may not be what someone
you
else
need for the next position.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so confusing.
The other area where a lot of people, especially now, given this economy, are having some frustration or difficulty is figuring out how they can represent as best as possible the skills and experience they had in one industry when they're trying to move into something totally different. So, for example, what would your advice be, Judith, to somebody who has spent all of their time in finance but is now very much interested in moving into, say, marketing? And they don't have marketing experience, but they've got 20 years of solid finance experience, and they worry about continuously being pegged as a finance person.
So there are lots of ways of doing this, and one of them is to get some experience marketing. Volunteer with your professional organization for the marketing team. Then you have something to put on the top of your resume. Volunteer for your alumni association. Take on a friend's marketing project. Find something that can show that that's your interest. And of course, I'm sure that Donna would agree that what you can also do is take a class at some, preferably some recognizable brand name. You can take one class as a special student or as a non-matriculated student that shows that you actually have a commitment to making this change into marketing.
Yeah. I want to get to 3 things that absolutely belong on my resume.
Right. Okay.
Your contact information, your email, if you have a LinkedIn, all of those.
Professional email, too.
Right.
So not some funky mama thing.
It's best if it's your name or some version of your name so that people can find you. So I would say that would be one thing. And what would you add?
Well, Judith, what does not belong on the resume, no matter what?
I never include salary information. I never include, people sometimes include their references. I don't want my references floating out. I want to know that the person who I'm sending it to is serious about me so that I can also contact my references before they're called and give them a heads up as to what I'm about.
What about hobbies? Do hobbies belong on a resume?
Sometimes, because it gives somebody something to talk to you about. If you're a coach of a soccer team, it's like one of those things that people chat with you about. Or you can do what people have been doing forever. You either are a consultant, and these were your projects, or you're a freelancer, and these were your projects, so that you have a way of showing that you've been active. Or some people, as I said, again, it depends on the field. Some people just say temp work, and they put it on the bottom to show that they have been serious about moving it.
That's absolutely right. And the other thing that I sort of was struck by, Judith, was when he, talked about how difficult it is. And so what is the advice that you give to somebody about really keeping their spirits up when the job search gets them down, which we also know has been much more brutal and difficult for men than it has been for women. And you really see that in Ricky and so many other people who he represents.
Right, exactly. Some of it is simple things. If I can get everybody to eat protein first thing in the morning because they've been fasting, and if you stay in that state, even if you have breakfast at 11, you start having a depression increase. Watch your alcohol intake. Alcohol is basically a depressant. It does not help your spirits. And the third thing is exercise, exercise, exercise. Find a friend to go for a walk with. Join a team. If you're a guy, you probably did some sports when you were at another point in your life. Get yourself physically fit, because this is going into training to keep going and find a job.
And I was so happy also to hear that he's doing this internship.
Also creating community. I have found in this recession, more than our other little events, is that people in your community are the people who will help you out. And so it's important to join some community professionally.
And he's the kind of guy who that's going to happen for. All right, Donna Swayden and Judith Gerberg, great so much to have your insights here. Thank you both for your time and expertise.
Thank you for having us. Sure.